Hello, welcome to my Poirot shelf tour. So something amazing happened. I reached 3,000 subscribers, and as usual on my channel, when I do reach 1,000 subscriber milestone, I do a shelf tour. I've done a Jane Austen shelf tour, I've also done a beautiful book shelf tour, and now, very highly requested, is my Agatha Christie Poirot shelf tour. So, I'll quickly give you an overview of my shelf. So starting in the corner, I do collect perfume bottles. I've got this one, which as you can see is a bit of an old one. And then this one, funnily enough, is just an old diesel one, but it's in a heart and I thought it's really pretty. Then as you can see, I have all my books. Some are a little bit odd, but most of them are looking beautiful and uniformed. And then in this corner, we have my Poirot, the essential novels in one sitting. And then we have the little book of vintage crime. As I said, they don't all fit on one shelf because, let's face it, there are far too many of them. So if I move you down onto the next shelf, you can see that I have Poirot books here on the end. So this is a little book of Grey Sal's The Quotable Poirot, and hidden behind there are the rest of my Poirot novels. So let me show you each book one by one. So starting off with the book that sits on top of this shelf, this is Agatha Christie 3-Act Tragedy. I made a bit of a boo-boo when buying this. I bought this from the book depository and then got it home and realised, oh dear, this doesn't go with all my others. It's not in that nice uniformed editions. All the rest of them are from Harper. This one is not. However, when I open it up, I find that the paging, the line spacing, all the margins and the chapters all look really nice. So actually, it's a really nice edition to read from, even if it doesn't go, so I have kept it anyway. Then we have Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot, the complete short stories. I have read every single short story of Hercule Poirot that there is. There are over 50 in here, and if you haven't read them, it can be a little bit daunting, but let me tell you, it is well worth the read. They're absolutely brilliant. And then getting into these nice uniformed editions from Harper, these are these mass market paperbacks. They're brilliant. I love them. They're not too expensive either, and they all look brilliant together on the shelf. Well, I think so anyway. So first up we have the very first one. This is The Mysterious Affair at Styles. It's Poirot's first case, and it's the first time that we meet both Poirot and Hastings. I love this one. It's brilliant. It shows Agatha Christie in her very organised, very neat style of putting together a detective story. It's brilliant, and if you haven't read it, you really should. Next we have Murder on the Links, which as you can see, slight golfing element to it. Then we have The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, which is the book that made Agatha Christie just go from a normal crime writer of this period into this massive global phenomenon. If you haven't read it, you should. Next is The Big Four. This is a bit different and not the kind of cosy crime that we're kind of used to when it comes to Agatha Christie's work, but it's still good, but just one that I don't pick up very often. The Mystery of the Blue Train is a brilliant one. Then we have Black Coffee, which originally was a play by Agatha Christie featuring Poirot, but has been novelised by Charles Osborne, and let me tell you, the novelisation of it isn't that great. I'd rather read the original play. Back to another one of my favourites now, we have Peril at End House. I completely adore this novel. I love Poirot and Hastings in this. I also love the setting. I think everything about this is just brilliant. Next up we have Lord Edgware Dies, which for some reason always comes on holiday with me. Then we have Murder on the Orient Express, one of Agatha Christie's most famous works. This is brilliant. I actually started with this one when it came to Agatha Christie and Poirot, but I'm going to be honest with you, I wouldn't advise starting here. I've done a whole video on where you can start with Poirot. This is one that you will really appreciate if you come to a little bit later on, or if you do read it as your first one, because let's be honest, it's so famous. Come back to it once you've read some more and you'll really appreciate it. Then we have Death in the Clouds, another brilliant one that I like to read on holiday. Then we have The ABC Murders. This, I'm going to be honest, is one of the most creepy Agatha Christie novels that there is, I find personally. It's one that I read while looking over my shoulder thinking the murderer is coming after me next. Then we have Murder in Mesopotamia. Unfortunately, not one of her best in my personal opinion. But next is Cards on the Table. It's one of my favourites because it contains my favourite character of Agatha Christie's, which is Ariadne Oliver, the crime writer. Next up is Dumb Witness. This is one for the dog lovers out there, where the dog, funnily enough, helps Poirot to solve the crime. Next up is Death on the Nile. Again, another one of Agatha Christie's very famous works, quite rightly so. Just don't do what I did. Don't read it in December. You won't get the love out of it that you should. Next up is Appointment with Death. This is another one that is brilliant to read on holiday. Hercule Poirot's Christmas is one that I do tend to read each year. you might have guessed, around Christmas time. Sad Cyprus. In my opinion, this is my most beautiful book. I think it's just so beautiful. I love the use of colours and images, and roses are my favourite flower. This is one of my favourite books by Agatha, and to be honest, this is so underrated. It's too good for people to miss out on, so if you haven't read it, please do. 1-2 book on my shoe, another one which is super creepy. Evil Under the Sun, another great cover, and one that I do also take with me on holiday. 5 Little Pigs like Sad Cyprus is another one of my favourites, and another one that sadly is very underrated, but I completely adore it. The Hollow, simple yet very clever. The Labours of Hercules, which although I do have in my complete short stories book, I wanted just to be together in one book. Taken at the Flood is another great one with another great villain. Mrs. McGinty's Dead, another one of my favourites, which unfortunately I read too much because the pages have started to fall out. Oh no. After the Funeral, which has another beautiful cover. Hickory, Dickory, Dock is another fantastic one featuring students in a hostel. Dead Man's Folly is another great one and again features Ariadne Oliver. Cat Among the Pigeons is one set in a school. The Adventures of the Christmas Pudding is a book with short stories, and again I do own them all in the binder, the complete short stories which I showed you earlier. However, I loved the cover of this. Don't you think it's great? Then we have The Clocks, which actually is quite long for an Agatha Christie Poirot novel. Then we have Third Girl, which unfortunately I didn't really like at all. I gave it like maybe 1 or 2 stars. It was alright. Was it great? No. Next is Halloween Party. I do tend to read this around Halloween, funnily enough, although I don't read it that often. Just for a bit of a heads up, this isn't a spoiler, but it does contain the murder of children, so if you're not into reading about that, give this one a miss. Then we have Elephants Can Remember, which I love. I think this one is brilliant. Not as good as some of her early work, but I still think this is fantastic. It again has Ariadne Oliver in it, so I can't complain. And then finally, last but certainly not least, we have Curtin, Poirot's Last Case. This book is absolutely fantastic. It's one that she wrote kind of in the middle of all these, put it in a safe and locked it up, and it is brilliant. It's well worth the read, and it's just an absolute fitting tribute to Poirot's Last Case. So that's it for my Hercule Poirot shelf tour. I hope you really enjoyed it. Thank you so much to each and every one of you that subscribed. I hope you enjoyed watching this shelf tour and looking at all my books. And as you know, I have read every single Hercule Poirot novel that there is, so if there is one that you think, oh, I would like a review of that, let me know in the comment section and I will do that for you. Also, if you have any questions in regards to Agatha Christie, Hercule Poirot, Miss Marple, etc, let me know in the comment section and I'll either answer them for you or do a little Q&A. But generally in the comment section, let's just have a little discussion. So thank you so much for watching, take care, and I shall see you soon for the next video. Bye for now.